excited to bring you today's guest. He is signed by Spinnin' and Universal Records. His hit track Outlines has 40 million streams on Spotify alone, and he's also produced official remixes for Avicii, Tiesto and Ellie Goulding. In today's episode, he covers the importance of staying true to yourself after success, and he also covers on his little secret. Let's get into it.
It started in the womb. No, I think it was like when I was 20 years old, I think. I mean, I always used to love music. I always like collected all like record tapes on like old school hip hop when that was on the radio. I used to record on tape like five of the same songs on the same tape all the whole time and all that kind of stuff. But it actually really started when I was a student. I think I was 20 years old or something, and I had like 4 or 5 friends who were hip hop DJs, and I loved hip hop as well, but I was really intrigued by the fact that the hip hop beats were sampled by older like jazz records and disco records and soul and that kind of stuff. And I kind of thought, all right, all the other friends are hip hop DJs. I'll just try and collect all these original tracks like the funk and the jazz and the disco and the soul and all these rare grooves. So I started to collect them, and then fairly soon I realized that if I want to sustain this hobby, I have to have some more income. Because everything I earned and all my student payments, everything went in collecting records, old and new. And so I went to I lived in Utrecht then, and I just went from pub to pub with my 30 or something records and asked if I could play an evening or a night. At the time, it was like for 50 guilders or something. So that's basically a whole night of DJing for 1 or 2 records. But and that's how I kind of got into DJing. I bought the Technics decks and a mixer, and started practicing. I started mixing all these rare groove records that I had, which was hard because they were all live, so it's hard mixing those records, hard to beat match them. But so I did that kind of, I think, for a year or something, and then those friends and me started to thinking about, okay, we should throw some parties together. And because basically when I lived in Utrecht, there was no like hip hop scene or whatever. So we just thought, okay, we have to start and organize these parties. And we started in our own house. I lived with 3 or 4 of those friends in one house, which was obviously a good time. And I think the first party we did was called 1001 Cans of Beers Party, which was actually that. And we just set up our DJ sets, and then had like a bucket near the front door where people can donate their money, which in the end was like 10 guilders or something for the whole night for everybody. So we didn't make any money, but we had a good time.
We'll get back to the pod in just a second, guys. Thank you, Eden, for sponsoring this podcast and making it a reality. Make sure you all hang around to the end, because we've got some huge giveaways that you cannot miss. Let's go.
And then, but loads of people came, and it was kind of like a real thing from the beginning, that all the hip hop heads and everybody just went there to because there was nothing else for in that type of genre in that city. So we gave a couple of those parties, and then a programmer of a venue in Utrecht noticed that we had some like traction and could get people on their feet and coming towards our parties. And he said, well, I have this idea. I normally book hip hop acts, but the problem I have is after those hip hop acts, I don't have like a reason for the visitors to stay, because, you know, they just go and there are other parties, and I want to throw hip hop parties around it. how about I book the acts and we frame it as you guys presenting all these acts and throwing the parties. And we just got like a really small flat fee, but we were like, hey, this is amazing. We had a name then, which was called Boom Clutch, which was the kick and the snare of hip hop. And yeah, I mean, we had like, it was a small venue, it was like 500 cap or something. But I mean, we had some cool acts coming in, and we were happy that we were those guys throwing the parties, and it looked like we all booked those acts, which we didn't. But so we were kind of like the cool kids, the hip hop cool kids, and it was really nice doing that. And then that programmer went to a different venue, a bigger venue with 1,000 cap, and same thing. And he started booking acts like De La Soul and DJ Premier, all these really big names, and we were the guys presenting all those acts and throwing the parties around it. And people started coming, and everybody it was sold out all the time. And then the guys of that venue asked, like, would you think about throwing another party as well, like a different thing, because you can get people on their feet. So I thought, all right, that's cool. I thought of this concept with mixing hip hop more with drum and bass and dubstep, and make it a kind of more of an eclectic thing, and integrating the electronic music in it as well. And that also went well. And then we started to kind of be known as that group of DJs that played everything from hip hop to drum and bass and everything in between. And we kind of got picked up as a DJ collective or a DJ crew as well. So we called ourselves Boom Clutch, which was the name of the party. And then we got bookings in from like around the Netherlands, and then Mojo, the biggest agency in the Netherlands, picked us up. And I don't know if the listeners will know this, but if they know the festival Lowlands, but we did like 5 times, and we closed it, and we did the main stages, and it was a really big thing. And we didn't even produce or whatever, we just DJ'd. So it was kind of like we didn't know what we were doing, but we were having fun, and it worked.
But
And
help us paint the picture a little bit more. So like, what's the like sort of time zone? What year have you progressed over here?
I think this was around 2005. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And and so that was also, I don't know if you guys know this, but also when dubstep came, there was also a big like French house scene, and this electro kind of dance, like the crookers and all this. Yeah, we called it fidget. I don't know if you called it the same in the UK.
I'm not too sure. No.
What do you call it? Sorry?
Fidget. Yeah. It was guys like the Crookers and the Bloody Beetroots. A block house, maybe you know it.
Yeah.
So there was a time when it kind of switched from vinyl to CD. And I think in the time where we played with CDs, you just downloaded all the songs from the cool blogs during the week, and then in the weekend you played them out. And so it went from hip hop to drum and bass, but then also this kind of like French house, electro kind of thing. And because we were with 5 friends, and we were just playing with 5 friends, and it really affected people in a good way, because we were always having fun behind the decks, and we were always with the 5 of us. So we had a host, and we just make sure we had a party. Basically, we were also sometimes known as the DJs that partied harder than the crowd. And that was kind of the thing that we were known for, just playing basically pretty hard bass stuff, but keeping it really like happy and friendly and fun instead of trying to act really cool. We partied and we laughed and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of caught on. And then I decided, all right, this is when we got a management as that DJ collective, and we had a good booker. And then I thought, all right, this is it. I'm going to stop, school and stop working, and this is what I'm going to do full time now. And then,
so that's the moment that you thought, right, this has really got legs. I'm going all in, baby.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we didn't make a lot, but it was kind of like we did so many cool things, and it was so worth it. I mean, we made money, but it was like, it was the 5 of us, so we had to split it 5 ways as well. So it was kind of like,
of course.
But also, I came from student life, so I didn't need much. And I was not thinking about like a secure future or whatever, just thinking about, all right, this is a cool thing we're doing right now. And I mean, I think I realized pretty soon that, things come and go in life really fast, and the moments are the most important thing. And I just thought, all right, this is the coolest thing ever, so I'm just going to do it, and I'll probably get by. It will be fine. So
just have faith.
Just have faith. Yeah. Well, I'm not even like really thinking about the future. Just going like, all right, I'm alive. I live, and I can eat, and that's it. Right. So.
Damn right. So until that point, then when you're throwing these parties, you're sort of just caught up in the moment, and you're just going along with it. You're just throwing the parties, having a good time with your pals, doing things that doing the thing that you all love to do. Yeah. Are you not really thinking about making a career out of it? You're just sort of like just in the moment, just living it.
Yeah, going with it, but being kind of aware that what we were doing, because we were one of the first playing in that eclectic kind of way in the Netherlands, and with that kind of energy, and we got people, other acts doing the same thing after us, right? So I was aware there was kind of like, well, it's hard to describe, but it's not a movement or a culture, but it is maybe a small culture, right? And that we were
like a trend,
or like a trend, and we were in the middle of it. So when we were throwing those parties, I always thought, all right, we need to kind of expand on this whole, being one of the trendsetters or one of the middle people in that bigger, like, or in a small culture. So I started a label which is called Boomclutch Records, which I still have. And then I thought, all right, this is just me doing this now. And then after that, I started producing. So I didn't produce anything, but I started producing when I was like, all right, I'm going to do this full time now. I get paid in the weekend. I have some time during the week. I'm just going to learn this whole producer thing and just see how it goes. And I don't know. I think the first time I downloaded Ableton, I feel like I didn't sleep for 5 days. I was just, going, what, can you do all this? That's amazing. Yeah.
So like, how did you get into production? Like, how were you learning? Was it all just self-taught? Like, because obviously you don't really have much YouTube to go on, and like, I'm sure there's not much on YouTube to teach you. So talk us through that process of like, obviously you've just downloaded this software, what makes a good track because you've been playing them for the last few years, but how do you get your head, try and wrap your head around laying that on the screen and making it sound something similar?
Yeah. So first it just started with making edits of tracks that I liked, speeding them up, or at that time there was a certain rhythm, which is called the Baltimore rhythm, the B-more rhythm, or Jersey club kind of thing. So if I liked the track, I cut it up and put that rhythm under it. And then I had like a dance floor version of a track I liked. And that was the first thing. And then I remember that Ableton had those lessons you can. So when you buy Ableton, you can just go and do all the lessons. And I just did all the lessons. And but I didn't know any music theory or whatever. So I was super happy when I had something that sounded remotely musical. But I think, and now I'm thinking about it, that's basically one of the things. I was so enthusiastic about every step I made. Like, even if I wouldn't be able to listen to it now, but I was just so happy with if I had like a beat, I just could vibe on it forever and go like, oh yeah, this is the shit. And probably didn't sound like anything, but I don't know. That was kind of the thing. And then, just really getting addicted to just making stuff. And like I said, not sleeping and just being behind. And then the next morning, like without sleep, going to my friends, listen to this, trying to see how they feel about it. And most of the time they didn't really like it. But
had you done anything in your past then that was like sort of showed or proved your creative process, or was this the first thing that like sort of caught your attention and you threw everything into?
Oh, that's a great question. I saw myself as being creative, but I didn't really had like a creative thing. I played a bit guitar, but not like you can really mention. And no, this was maybe that was also it. It was just like it felt like wow, and it really was the thing. Like what a creative has to have in my mind is that the creation of it. So the creating of it, like. Yeah, you just feel like a god. You just go like, oh, I can really make this. I can from nothing, and that kind of feeling I still have. So I started, just producing tracks and edits and weird things, and obviously I could play them out every weekend, so I could test them and then see how it goes, and see my friends' reactions, way more important than the reaction of the crowd.
And, so it was quite an organic process then, really, all in all. So it was like trial and error.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was trial and error, and it was kind of grassroots, I think, as well. I mean, it started really with just being with friends of friends, friends of those friends, then turning it into a party where people go like, oh, there's something going on here. This is interesting. There's something going on. And it kind of like, it acts like a magnet when it's like that. And I can speak about it now like that because I'm not like super proud of that, because I didn't know what I was doing, and we all didn't really know what we was doing. We were just caught up in the moment and we just did it. So and it worked.
I think that's what makes it special though, isn't it? Because there isn't like, you're not trying to make money out of this. You're not trying to like do this for someone. You're literally just going like, this is what I love to do. And this is what I want to consume the rest of my time. It's where I'm happy, like sort of making it. I think that's where the magic is really sparked from.
Yeah. And I think also that it all started from a social perspective. So I didn't start as a producer. I didn't even start really as I DJed, I collected the records and I DJed a bit, but we started at throwing these parties and make it. So every step we did was surrounded by, people, and we could test things and we could do things. And that's what I feel is a big, challenge now for people who are producing or whatever, is there, you have to kind of leap that gap of starting with friends, and because most people now are just producing and they want to be a DJ, and that could totally work, but for me it didn't work like that. It just worked like being with friends and that whole social thing. And I think as a artist or DJ, you kind of have to be within a certain culture and understand all the small things and the unwritten rules, and kind of have this feeling of what could work, which track could work, or which thing you do can work. Yeah. And I think you can't really make that up by just sitting in your studio. You have to be with people and amongst people.
You have to be surrounded by it, engulfed by it.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know, have you spent much time thinking about how much like those early days where you're just creating with your friends or just throwing the parties has actually sort of tailored how you started to learn how to produce? Because obviously you've got an opportunity to be out every weekend playing these tunes and seeing the reaction of this crowd, which is a kind of new scene. You're as you said, like you are creating this kind of movement. So like I would be interested to hear your thoughts on like how that sort of tailored your process moving forward.
Yeah, I think it was such a big influence, and now sometimes I really know that I missed that thing, right? Because I'm older now. I don't go out every weekend with friends, and I'm not in that certain culture. And obviously, you can still, like, from a music perspective, you can still have your feelers out there and see what works and not by checking loads of stuff online and who's releasing what and all that kind of stuff. But that's more purely as a producer. But as a DJ, I think that's the golden thing to have, like being around that. And obviously, yeah, I mean, the luck that I have with being able to make that money in the weekend and then just learning this whole producer thing, I just told myself, like, all right, it's probably going to take me like 3 or 4 years to be a decent producer, because that's the kind of hours you have to put in. So, and I had that time. So it was kind of like, yeah, it was a blessing, definitely.
Yeah. And also at the time, social media wasn't really prevalent then, was it? So it was really organic, the way you were going out and sort of like your process when you were making the tracks, and then you were going and testing them and playing them. Whereas nowadays you just upload them to SoundCloud or something like that, and sort of trial them that way.
Yeah, and obviously we also did when we were throwing those parties. We didn't. I think MySpace was just like coming up, right? So, or maybe in my mind, or maybe it was earlier, but
I mean, half the audience probably don't even know what MySpace is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Showing our age now.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. So it was all word of mouth that people came, and I feel like nowadays you have to do more to promote. Still, word of mouth is still a very important tool, but now you have to do way more, right? Now it's the competition online as well and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was kind of like also a lucky thing, because if it's all word of mouth, the competition is less, I feel like, because, you know, people now can get overwhelmed which party to choose, which music to follow, which artist to follow. And then there wasn't so much, right? So the people who who played in the venues and who had other people talking about them, like us, that was such a privilege to have, and super powerful, I think. Yeah. So that was kind of the whole Boom Clutch crew DJ collective thing. The other guys weren't really on board like I was. So they were all still having their jobs and doing a thing.
Yeah.
They were kind of like thinking a bit more about their future than I was, I think. So at a point I started noticing, like, all right, I'm doing most of the work here, or felt like it in any case. And I was always, you know, sometimes the guys were like, oh yeah, my girlfriend has a birthday, I can't go to the gig. And I was always there, right? So at a point, I kind of felt a bit frustrated on one end. And then I said to the guys, all right, I want to see how this goes. If I'm not doing any work, I might do some shows, but I'm not doing any work outside of the shows for like 3 months. And then I think I produced for 2.5, 3 years or something. And then I thought, all right, I might have to, you know, try something solo, because that's one, I'm not depending on other people, and the other, and there's a chance of making more money, because I saw the income of what we made, but it was always divided by 5. So I was like, all right, there's money in this, but not if you're with 5. So I kind of thought, all right, let me just see if I can kick something off on my own. And then I actually thought, all right, we were playing hip hop and drum and bass and this French house and electro and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, if I'm gonna do something solo, maybe that house thing. I think that has a longevity. It's been a trend for a while now. I should try that. And I think I made like 2 house tracks, and the third I made was a track called The Show, which I initially released on the label that I already had, Boom Clutch Records. And it kind of went pretty fast after that, because people started supporting that track. And then Spinning Records picked it up, and then Ministry of Sound picked it up. And then I kind of had, like, in those 3 months, I kind of had like a starting point for my new solo career. Sorry. And so that track got released, and then I think 2 months after, Ministry of Sound, the club, asked me to play in London, which was my first gig outside of the Netherlands. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the UK scene was or whatever. But it was so much fun. I loved it, and I enjoyed just the UK crowd and the it's such a different crowd than the Dutch crowd. I feel like the English. My experience was that the English it's a bit rougher in the UK. But it's also very clear if people don't like it or do like it, what you're doing. Yeah. Where in the Netherlands, it could be a bit like in the middle, right? Mm. And I thought it was a bit hard as well, because I didn't know like all the big tracks in the UK or like what I was talking about with being in the middle of a culture and knowing exactly what to do and when. Yeah, didn't really had that feeling in the UK, especially the first couple of times I was playing there. But yeah, so and that track got some traction and went really well, and I did some shows, and then the second track was because of that. Dragonette, who did the track "Hello" with Martin Solveig, she sent the demo to me via my manager, which was kind of like a slow disco song. And if I would want to work on it, and that was basically Outlines. So it went like I think my 5th house record was Outlines that I made.
That's crazy.
Yeah. and I was producing like for 3.5 years or something. So it was super quick, everything.
That's insane. Yeah, that is mad.
Yeah.
So back to you coming over to the UK. Obviously, it's a completely different music culture. Do you think it was a little bit more difficult for you because obviously you hadn't created that culture, so you, as you said, you weren't at the center of it? Or do you think that it was just like a more mature market, or was it like, how did that like transition sort of help?
It was exactly those things. So it was already a mature market, whereas in the Netherlands we basically created our own thing. So if we did something, it was kind of leading in some way. Although it wasn't a big culture like or style or whatever like house music is, but in our world it was kind of like we could do what we wanted because we were kind of, and also because we had like the friends around us, and like if they didn't approve of the track or whatever, you kind of you keep each other in check in a way as well.
You've got that instant like sort of feedback loop on everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
And because you're the ones that are like obviously creating it at the center of the movement, then you're the ones that are deciding, whereas you come over here and that must have been like extremely difficult though, coming over and like seeing a completely different side to it and trying to fit. I mean, you didn't struggle, but it must have been extremely difficult coming over and being like, was there any point in your mind you were like, oh shit, like this is even bigger than I ever thought?
Well, yeah, like the house scene was bigger, and also it was way more within a certain like frame, right? And what we did was eclectic, so we could do way more things. And I really had to adjust to that kind of like keeping it in a neat package for the crowd and to make it understandable and not do too many weird things. But I did had a struggle with the house music that I was listening to at that time was far away from a song like Outlines, because Outlines basically is a pop song, and I listened a bit more to could you say underground? Yeah. I mean, I was fan like guys like Dorley and Huxley and that kind of those kind of DJs. And I was playing that, which was fine, but sometimes because in the end, Outlines went top 10 in the UK charts, and then you get booked at certain venues where you can't really play stuff that Dorley or Huxley or guys like that produce, right? You have to kind of go a bit wider, and that's what I struggled the most with. I think I kind of got the whole feeling, because obviously it was also my feeling. It did. I mean, I'm saying it's now a super rational choice to go to choose house music, but it was also a feeling that I had. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the groovy stuff. When it came to pop there, when it came to more commercial tracks and more commercial shows there, I really struggled with not only what to play, but in what order, and what is the bigger hit to play after. That I didn't really, I couldn't really get myself in that true commercial vibe, I think, as a DJ.
Yeah, I mean, you're learning a completely different new skill there as well, though, aren't you? It's completely it is foreign to you coming over and then having to try and fit into this now after obviously playing for so many years. You've had to completely reshape everything you're doing when you stand up there in front of a new crowd.
Yeah. And I must say, I like the challenge of it, but it was, I had to work more with my head instead of just with my heart and just do what I like, right? I had to, and I noticed when I was playing more commercial sets, I could be satisfied afterwards, but I was never euphoric. I was always I did well. I think I read it well, and I played the records that I thought would work, and they would work, and I'm okay with it. I'm not happy, but I'm okay. Whereas, if it's a set where I did more what I felt, I did, the feeling afterwards was way more euphoric. Yeah.
So did you feel because of Outlines and the success of that you had to try and replicate that sort of style of track?
I definitely felt that there was a couple of guys that were in the same space as I was during that time. It's I always forget, Route 96. No, is it Route 96?
Route 94.
94.
Yeah, Route 94. Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
Route 2014. No. Route 94. Duke Dumont was in that same space. MK was in that same space. And also Philip George. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. No, Philip George, yeah. It's insane that you're just stepping into the market and you're already pitting yourself against some of the most influential names in the entire industry straight away.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I remember, it's funny because the guys from Gorgon City, Kai is called, right? He was, I think he had another act before they did Gorgon City, FOMO, which it's called. And he used to play that harder electro thing. And we had booked him on one of our parties in the Netherlands. And I remember just being a really fun guy, and everybody was kind of charmed by who he was. And then afterwards, I think we were in Paris. I was in Paris playing as Mike Mago with Gorgon City, and Kai was like, "Do you understand that? Where are you coming?" For us, it's it was just a promoter guy, and now he's suddenly in between all of us. It's so weird. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's in the space where I was, just because I think pure luck, that track Outlines was just, in my stage of my producing experience, and where I was as it just starting the solo career, and very, very, like, it was a very young career, the Mike Mago career. I was just so lucky that it went the way it went. And I know it was luck because, to come back to your question, did I try to replicate the songs? This is where I think of those DJs that I just mentioned, there was a big difference between the guys who just kept on doing that high level, catchy and still really well produced stuff, and the guys that didn't. And I think I tried. I think I was a bit in the middle. There were a couple of tracks that went really well as well, but like never at the same success as Outlines. So yeah, I in a way I had a hard time producing in the same style as Outlines. And sometimes when I did come up with groovy stuff, the labels that I was working with, they were like, it's a nice track, but it's more like, this is not radio. So we'll release it, but it's, and I just thought, all right, Spotify just kind of came into the scene where people could listen more to tracks, and I thought, all right, maybe I just should invest a bit more in this kind of like listening friendly house music with vocals than the dance floor stuff. Knowing on one hand also kind of where I was and what my profile was, and but also aware that might affect my bookings, because I felt like the more not DJ friendly you're going to produce, the less the chances are that you're going to be booked as a DJ.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew it, but I was already like with that other DJ collective playing for so many years, and then playing a couple of years as Mike Mago, and I thought, yeah, all right, this is maybe I'm just a bit more in love with producing. But I've noticed that there was then, after Outlines, came the shift between, all right, now I'm still doing shows, but I'm not doing like the more commercial shows I did. I didn't feel like I was in the midst of a culture and knowing all these things. I was always touring on my own, so there wasn't any friends around me to kind of discuss all these things with.
Yeah.
And I noticed kind of getting a bit more detached of like a scene or a culture or knowing all these things. And I kind of felt detached. So there was kind of like sorry.
Just walk us through that a little bit. Was that really difficult then, stepping into it? Because obviously what you've relied on and having that like sort of instant feedback loop from working with your friends like throughout your career, and then go into just on your own. Is there like, I presume you're probably filled with self-doubt a lot of the time when you're creating these tracks and you're putting it out, because it really just like depends on just you. Talk us a little bit through that. Was it a lot more difficult?
Yeah. I really had after Outlines, I think maybe 3 or 4 years, like a big struggle in the studio, because the people that gave me feedback about my music suddenly weren't my friends, but were like people in the industry, like managers, publishers, people from a major. And I mean, they were all, when they were enthusiastic, I was like, all right, they are the people that decide. They're the people that gonna push your release or not. And I knew my friends weren't that much into house music as I was, so, or even into more commercial music. So I kind of like already thought, all right, they wouldn't be able to give like strong feedback about it that I would know, because they wouldn't understand, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm directing my feedback, or like the opinions that I collected are more from the people in the industry, which I think in retrospect was the dumbest mistake. I feel, because obviously there's a side of being true to the music that you like or that you love or what you do, but although they can be really wide, there was also a thing that my life at that point was really nice. I mean, I traveled the whole time. I went on tour. I saw so many cities. I did so many cool things, and I made money. So there was kind of like, all right, I have to kind of like, I felt like I should be like a yes man kind of guy, like just say yes to all the opportunities that I had. And like I did remixes for Avicii, I did remix for Tiesto, all the kind of guy, and I never listened to them. But actually, the first time Spinning signed the record of the show, I've never heard of them. So I really wasn't in that commercial thing at all. So, but I just thought, all right, this is the opportunity of my life to kind of go on all these adventures and play in cool cities, meet cool people. And if it's not entirely the music that I love, it's okay, because I'm getting so much more cool experience out of it. But that was a weird time. It's not a thing that goes from one day to the next, right? So you also really don't know what you're doing all the time. So it wasn't a super conscious decision, but I think in retrospect, it was kind of like that, the motivation of the life experience that I gained, compared to like playing more stuff I truly love. It's not that I hated it, but I just didn't, like I said, I didn't know what was going on in that scene as much as I knew in
that's it. But you're caught up in the moment though, aren't you? You're like, everything's happening so quickly, and you're just yes, let's go, like trying to like sort of like keep the momentum. And then it's only really on reflection you get to look back and realize, shit, I did get a bit whisked away with that.
Yeah.
So was it this stage when you were playing out in Ibiza? Or was it that further down the line?
It was during this period. Yeah, I think 3 years, 4 years between.
So tell us a little bit about that. Your experiences in Ibiza.
I mean that was one of those experiences, and obviously, I mean, it may sound like, I didn't play what I loved all the time, but there obviously were loads of parties that still, like, where I could still play some good house tracks and be happy with it. I remember playing after Danny Howard and Mark Knight closing the Amnesia when the sun came up. I mean, that's obviously an insane experience.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed playing there. I think I played there last time, 2 years ago or something. But yeah, man, I enjoyed it. I mean, the whole vibe of the island is just amazing, and the parties are great as well. And the crowd is still UK crowd, so so I really enjoyed playing there. Yeah.
Talk us more about that then. So when was your first gig out in Ibiza?
Oh, my first gig. Oh yeah, it was I think it was on a Tool Room party. I think I wouldn't know the club. No, Eden, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Eden
in San Ann.
I mean, that was amazing. It's also really nice that you in Ibiza you can really get lost in the moment, and after your gig there are loads of things still going on. So I think we really went partying until the morning, which was super nice. And I think I did Amnesia 3 times, which were the best shows, I think.
I bet.
Yeah, a couple of more. I felt like it was almost the same as playing in the UK for me in terms of the crowd.
Just with nicer weather.
Yes, exactly. And everybody looking a bit less pale.
For sure. Take us back to the moment where you're sat there and you're producing outlines. Did you know when you're producing that this is going to be a hit, or was this you're just messing about, having a little jam? Obviously, you've had a couple songs that have gone off. Are you trying to like sort of hang off those, or is this like, yeah, just take us back to that moment?
Yeah. I think I got like 5 stems from Juggernaut, and I think it was on a 100 BPM song, and I didn't really know. Oh yeah, I remember. I because I had released the show with spinning that got signed to Ministry. Obviously, they were invested in my next record as well. So I remember having a meeting with them, and I think I got the stems from Juggernaut just the day before. So I didn't really do anything but just pitch up the track and put a kick underneath it and maybe a little bit of a bass, nothing, just to go to them and go like, hey, what do you think of this vocal? Is this something? And they were like, oh, this is really cool. And I remember him saying like, the music is nothing yet, but the vocal is really catchy. I didn't really know. I just thought it was a cool track. And then I made a version, and they kept on being enthusiastic, but also they wanted like adjustments and different drops and whatever. So I think I made like 10 versions for them. And I remember the 11th version being exactly the same as the 10th version I sent them. I was just like done with it.
Yeah.
and they were like, yeah, this version is amazing. I was like, yeah, it's the same. But there was a moment when I had like a first proper version. It didn't have that drop. That drop was really in the 6th version or whatever. But I remember in the 4th or 5th version getting this nervous feeling about, oh, they're invested in it, and that's, I want to. They have to give me feedback very, very quick, and let's go. And I was super hyped about it. That's what I remembered. But it was because I liked the song, but also because I just noticed them really being invested in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is something that isn't talked about enough in the industry as well, though, because like we speak of DJs all the time, and they're always on about how they're putting songs out there and they're getting kicked back all the time. I've got like a friend who's a young producer who's trying to make a remix now for quite a big artist, and he's on about like the 15th edition. He's getting really, really beaten down by it. And it's just like, no. Honestly, you just need to keep on going. Like once you've got something there, like you said, like you have the vocal that like they love, you just need to keep constructing and just like pulling stuff out, putting new stuff in, and just seeing what works, and really just like sort of keep going. But I know a lot of young producers out there just get so sort of deflated by the constant kickback and the constant, oh, I don't like this. But it's really just part and parcel of the entire experience, isn't it?
It is, but it's also there is a big element in it that nobody's going to challenge you more than somebody else's ear or opinion, right? There's just a point where you think you have pushed your production as far as you can, but yeah, same as in with sports or whatever, you just kind of have to have somebody goes, no, you can do way more, right? And sometimes it's the wrong person saying it, so the feedback might not be the right feedback. I trusted the guys from Spitting because they are really good A&Rs, and obviously it was focused on being a radio song, which I knew less about than them. So I just thought, all right, let's just go with it. And you kind of feel frustrated, but that frustration is also part of the challenge that you get, right? So if you're challenged, you have to get a bit frustrated. You're bound to get a bit frustrated before you make the steps. And I think that's what I felt in any case. And I still feel that now. Yeah. And I guess coming back to like the listening to the industry people more than my friends, obviously was that moment was pivotal, because if it would have been the track that I had made, it wouldn't have been such a success as it is now, just because they went and go, no, it needs a better, more catchy drop. So, that's why it kind of shifted to listening to people from the industry more than my friends, right? Because they wouldn't be able to give that feedback about radio, because they wouldn't know stuff about radio, same as I. So so that was kind of like the moment where I thought, all right, and that's why I'm saying it depends on who it is saying. But I feel like if you want to release somewhere and you feel it's the right label, because a label is it's a certain a label of a style of music. You probably want to sign there because they have something or some knowledge next to all the promotional strength. They have a certain knowledge about the scene or the industry that they are releasing this music, probably better than you in that typical way. So I think it's really good to listen to those people. But if you're like releasing it at a small label who has a broader or wider industry or targets or whatever, then it might be harder to listen to the.
So like it's about creating like that support circle around you that is actually gonna like has maybe some influence, or that that you can trust in what they have to say, their advice on the tracks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If I was to release on a tech house label, I don't know shit about tech house, so I'm probably going to listen to the A&Rs about how to, fine tune the track.
Yeah. Do you have some advice for those producers that are out there, like the youngsters that are coming up, that are like obviously feeling a bit deflated because they keep getting their tracks hit back?
Well, I think if you're deflated, it's not the right mindset. I think you just have to have the mindset that all that feedback is for you. Although it might be that the label wants to have a good product to release, all those things are for you to develop. You can still decide what you're going to do with all the feedback, and make the choices in not making everything, or how do you say, not changing everything they want. But getting feedback from A&Rs is one of the best things ever, and to just try and push yourself beyond things that you didn't come up with, that's a blessing to have that kind of thing, because
for sure,
the only boundary that you have in the creative process is yourself. So you kind of have to have other people to push those boundaries, right? And you can push it yourself as well to a certain extent, but you kind of have to have people, and that's all for you. So it's, I would just say, take it in and appreciate it. That's the biggest thing. Although it's frustrating, but I mean, it's supposed to be frustrating. Otherwise otherwise everybody could do it.
Well, that's what's sharpening the sword, isn't it? I mean, diamonds are made under pressure, aren't they? So it's like, it's that pressure that's going to sort of bring out the best in you, because if you feel like you're empty, like I've given this everything that I can, then it's the mindset change of, no, I can do more. I can bring more. Like I'm going to take it away, do a couple more versions. And that's what's going to obviously bring out the best in you, the best of your ability, I guess.
But it's, and I think the most difficult thing is when you're a young producer, you don't really know if you're a full-time producer yet or not. So, if you have a bad day or whatever, you might think, am I going to be that producer that I think I am, producing this kind of garbage? But I mean, I produce garbage every day. I don't care. One day in the week, and I'm creating something that's cool. But I accept it because I am in a position where I can, I don't have to validate my me being a producer. Whereas if you're younger, you kind of, so maybe that plays a bit of a role as well in getting that feedback or trying to push yourself towards things you think you won't be able to do or whatever, because that's also very frustrating.
Yeah.
So there might be some, validation thing going there as well.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously you have the luxury of, well, not so much luxury, but you've done the work, you've done all the hard work, you've been there, you've done it, you've
Didn't feel
played
like hard
with
work.
your foot. Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing. But you've done it, and then you've obviously come out with this track, and then you've sort of had made the decision to realign what music is to you and what you want to be doing. So coming out of Outlines and then taking that decision to focus more on what you love. Talk us through that journey a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, after Outlines, it was really hard to kind of try to follow up with similar music. I feel like I did, and it gave some, it stretched my momentum enough in a positive way. But after 3 or 4 years, I just felt like it's basically going back to what I said about your life being moments that are very important. And my touring schedule got a bit more empty during those the last year of those 4 years, and I couldn't really motivate myself in trying to make it again, in that trying to redirect an upward motion in my artist profile with that kind of music. But when I try to make something else or trying to make something more challenging, I still got kind of a pushback from the people in the industry, right? So it felt like I didn't really know what to do with me as an artist and the music that I was making. And I just felt like I'm sitting here in the studio trying to make these records that I don't really feel and don't, it's not my strongest point, these kind of records. And obviously if one of those records gets picked up and there's the show schedule fills up again, obviously, then I'm happy, because the whole thing about the life experiences on the balance come back. But now I'm not really getting that traction, but I'm still just in the studio making this music that I don't really feel. So and then there came a moment where it was I didn't know why, but I just wasn't really motivated. I know now why, but at that time I didn't know. And I just felt like I had to go back to being that more adventurous kind of producer. And because if it's a given that I'm not touring so much anymore, then why waste my time in the studio making music that I don't really like? So I just had to change things. So I did a couple of things. I started an indie band with a guy, maybe you know him, Roger72. I don't know if you know him. Also a producer and a singer, and we just started writing indie songs. I started playing guitar again, picked it up, and it's one of the most amazing bands, but it never had a had a performance, and the music didn't really perform well on a Spotify. But we really enjoyed preparing the live set and doing all the things, but also realizing that being a band is the worst business model there is ever, because to get a good spot to perform, in the beginning you will lose money because we had like a couple of session musicians, and we had a sound guy, and you have to travel there with all your gear. It's so different than being a DJ. And and we couldn't really get the pickup as a band, right? And we weren't really motivated to kind of do all these small shows and start from the bottom again.
Yeah.
But the writing part of it and the producing part of it, of this whole different kind of music, was opening a door for me as well. So I did that, and then I started a project which is which I shouldn't even tell, but it's a secret project. So, but loads of time gets into that as well, because I don't want to be connected with Mike Mago, because I don't want to have the people thinking, oh, this is like, for example, David Guetta and Jack Beck. What's his? Is it Jack Black or Jack Beck? I don't know. Jack Beck, right?
Jack Beck. Yeah. Jack Beck. Yeah.
Yeah. You still kind of, everybody still knows that it's him, which influences that profile as well, in a good way, but also in a bad way. And I didn't want that, so I told it as a secret project. Maybe in the future, I'll let you guys know about it. And I had a friend who knew a singer from who sang at the Eurovision Song Festival. This is recently, so this is like half a year ago. And she wanted to. She was looking for a producer, so I did a session with her, and that was the first time me producing for somebody else. And I thought, that's basically the answer. So there wasn't like a real moment of strategical thinking and what am I about? It's just something that happened. But I felt like this is it. I can make loads of music if I produce for other people. There's this thing that I started not enjoying the fact that I was on my own in the studio all the time. So with this person, and after her with many more, I really enjoy being with other people and figuring out what that person likes and trying to be on that on his or her frequency. The issue of me as Mike Mago not knowing what to do is gone, because it's for the other artist. And I can still push myself, maybe even more, because I have to perform as a producer and as a writer as well. So that was like a half a year ago. I did that session with her, and I was like, this is amazing. Just producing for others it's from day to day. It's a super experience. My musical itches get scratched, because I'm just super happy producing a wide range of stuff. And yeah, so I kind of manifested half a year ago that my main thing is that I'm a producer and writer for others, which doesn't mean that I'm not still Mike Mago and still producing some Mike Mago records now and again. But I have to kind of, if I want to do this, I have to manifest myself being a producer and writer for others. My publisher was always Universal, and they kind of believed in it as well. They gave me a new deal, and they're like putting in sessions all the time. So now, since a couple of months, I'm just booked with sessions almost every day in the week. And sometimes it's like a Dutch TikTok influencer who wants to write a ballad or whatever. And sometimes it's established artist that wants kind of like a hip hop track, or maybe someone that wants kind of more of a rock thing or whatever. I don't know. It could be anything. And I the last couple of months I've regained so much of that energy I used to have, and that enthusiasm about just making music. And I also feel that it's fairly late, but now I feel like I'm a producer, where before I was just a DJ, and then if first obviously a promoter, then a DJ who was producing. But now I just see myself as a producer. Obviously, I'm still an artist, but where I used to make records to get shows and DJ, now I'm just making records for other people, and that's my day to day. And I really enjoy that. That's one of the best discoveries of the last couple of years for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see. Obviously, you've rekindled that spark for your love of music again. But it's funny to see you've gone sort of full circle, because obviously you started multi-genre with your hip hop, and then bringing in like the French, and then now you're obviously going full circle, and then obviously having a wider multi-genre career ahead of you.
Wow, I did not realize that. Yeah, that's yeah. That's actually true. Yeah. It went full circle in terms that it's a wider range again, which I really enjoy. Yeah. Well said.
That's cool. I love that. What's the so moving forward? Obviously, it seems like you've had like a crazy couple decades as a career. Seems like you've like sort of resparked your love. But what are you most excited for, like moving forward into like this new sort of career path?
Well, since it's I feel like I'm just at the beginning of this producing for and writing for other artists thing. So, for example, now when Universal books a session, I don't even ask who is the artist. I just agree, and it's all good. But I think, and that's also because there was a couple of things I needed to learn as well, like producing for other people. Like being a bit more quicker during the sessions, and making sure that I have a good like vocal chain for when the singer records, and then I immediately have like a good chain of effects to make it sound right, and all these kind of shortcuts that I had to kind of develop for myself. And obviously the challenge musically is bigger as well. So playing keys and playing guitar and knowing the theory, getting to know the theory a bit better and to use it quicker and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like I'm developing that fairly quick now. And I feel like one of the things for this year for me are to say no to a certain artist, and to kind of develop a certain like sound or speciality, whereas now I do everything just to kind of see where I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I do like the diversity of it, so it's not per se about genre, but more about sound or style or whatever, and also the people that I work with to develop that more. And I think I have like 4 trips to the UK scheduled in to work with artists there as well. And the thing is with being an artist, I've kind of alluded to it, but the goal is really clear for an artist. You want to have shows, you want to sell your music, and maybe you want to have like loads of followers on your socials. But the road to that goal is super random and really hard, and there's not really a formula to it. And loads of people try it, and the competition is really high. But the biggest thing is it's weird to kind of figure out which steps you have to make to get there. Whereas being a producer, the steps are pretty clear. I just have to do loads of sessions with loads of people, and have loads of people be happy with me during the session, and create tracks that they like. And then the next step is trying to build a name as a producer, and getting people to be, because they are enthusiastic about you, talk about you to others, and then kind of go up that ladder in a certain way. I feel like because these are clear goals for me. It's now, because I never had like those steps in front of me. This is the first time I have those steps in front of me to kind of, so I'm really enthusiastic about it. And these are the steps. So I think, working with bigger artists and trying to kind of figure out who I am and which sound I am, I want to get known for. And then, 4 times, maybe do some 4 weeks in the UK, work with some artists, and maybe once or twice in LA to kind of keep on developing. So this year for me is about developing and growing as a producer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you briefly touched on it there, saying about social media. How do you think social media has actually affected the scene nowadays?
It's everything, right? I feel the biggest thing I hate about the social media is that people do stuff because they work, and then they copy things that work, and that's so not creative. So it's so not my thing to do, but it is something that, like, how many times you got kind of baited in a good headline of a post or whatever, right? So, and every time you're like, fuck, I know that it's not like, wow, this plugin is amazing, or wow, here, I know it's just a plugin that they want to sell, but I'm still like, oh, maybe it is. So you kind of get baited in with all these things that work. And I mean, I always joke about this with friends that being a social media manager to me is like, I don't know if I'm offending people now, but it's the job I would love the least. And how it affects, it's hard because at the same time social media came up, streaming came up as well. And I think streaming has increased the level of music in so many ways. And well, now, like I said, being a producer and listening to all kinds of stuff, I realized that, when was the last time there was a pop song that you heard that was just kind of corny, but it was catchy? I mean, it feels like so long ago that was it. All the good and big pop artists, they make musically interesting stuff. Like, it could still be a catchy song, but if you listen to like a guy like Harry Styles, the production is amazing, and the way it's and then Drake and Beyonce, all these people, and there's basically no music that is just dumb but catchy. It's all pretty interesting, and I think that's a big part is because of the streaming, because people listen to music a bit more and they're listening it on headphones. So it's not only about just a catchy radio song, it's also about how it sonically feels for the listener as well. So that on one hand, and then on the other hand, you still have these, I don't know so much about it, but the TikTok hits and that kind of stuff, which I feel is also kind of amazing, because there are loads of like unknown artists that have like loads of millions of plays just because they have like a TikTok trend going on. And that's not so much forced upon by the industry. It's kind of a bit more free, which Spotify is as well, a bit less forced by the industry. So that's kind of cool. But if you're talking about how to promote yourself as an artist, or a DJ or whatever, I feel, I mean, I sometimes see DJs my age and they post some like vlog type of shit or whatever. And I always feel like, oh man, why would you? I mean, you might, you know, if you're like 20 years old or whatever, I can understand. But I mean, I wouldn't be happy doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's much bigger, isn't it? It's much bigger than just like promotion through social media. It's the whole landscape. I suppose it's the internet, isn't it? Like the bringing of like the streaming made music so much more accessible to everybody. You could listen wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Therefore, the demand goes way up. Which I think has opened up a platform for something like social media to make sure that you can shove as much music to the people. To obviously, it's supply and demand. You know, there's a hell of a lot more demand now, so there needs to be a lot more supply. So it's this constant battle of, like putting the music out there to like cover to cover the demand.
Yeah, that's true. In some ways, that is true. Yeah. But I feel like it also aligns a bit with how easy producing is nowadays and how many tools you can have to make a good song. And maybe I'm a bit hopeful, but I feel like, you know, true artistry will always prevail in those situations. And what I mean with true artistry is an artist is not only just expressing himself with his or her music, they are also reflecting the time and world they live in, right? And I think loads of people forget, and I think as a DJ it's harder because it's the artistry as a DJ is a bit difficult because it's, how do you say, it's a bit more framed, or the things you can do because you want to have other people playing your tracks as well. So you can't do too weird stuff because then people won't play it. So there's like a weird balance you have to have if you're a DJ. But then still, I think, you know, making music is super easy nowadays. Getting it out there is easy, but getting the majority to listen to it, that's harder. But I feel like people sometimes forget that a big thing of that is, you know, you're an artist as well. So you have to, and a true artist reflects his or her culture, gets people engaged with who they are. And that's more than just a cool tune or 30-minute snippet. So
yeah.
And because you get more, like, I don't know if you have that in the UK as well, but you have kind of universities for being an artist or music production, all that kind of stuff. And that means the market gets saturated with loads of people trying to make music. And there's just not enough for 90% to make it in this music world, right?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, it creates challenges, and it's not like I had, it's not a plan for the future. For me, it was something that happened, but I can understand that some people want to, you know, plan being an artist in the future. And it's not something that's just a given, right? The opposite. It's just the chances are so small, and it's like being a good artist, representing your time and culture, and then having loads of luck in doing stuff at the right moment. I mean, I saw a snippet of Andre from Outkast. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Who made a new album with just the flute, which has millions of plays. And it's not that he's an example, because I hate, you know, giving an example of artists doing it right, being an example for artists that's trying to make it. That's like showing a lottery winner to kind of like tell people, right, if you buy a lottery, you can, right? But what he said was kind of true, that loads of people, and he said it in a snippet, loads of people forget that the momentum is so important when you're an artist. And if you're and if you're ahead of the curve, and if it's going to be a real curve, then you're there. But I mean, all those things is still artistry, right? So I think that will always prevail, even with the whole social media and all this kind of stuff going on.
Yeah. You say something quite interesting there, that obviously technology really enables us to do things a lot easier. That's the whole idea of it. It's to get from A to B a lot quicker and a lot easier. And we're seeing that with some of like a lot of the production tools, and then obviously social media serving as your marketing tool. If you know how to use it, you can get seen by millions just in a matter of days these days. How has like production changed for you over your career?
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I always felt like during the production process, everything is there are no rules, right? So you can steal, you can do whatever. The only thing is you the listener mustn't be able to hear it in the song, or nobody should hear it, or it shouldn't be in the the final. But during the process, everything is possible. So I always used like from the beginning, when there were chord generators, I always used them, and I always have like all these small tools to kind of keep my musical knowledge at a certain level. Well, not mine, but like to have some helpers here and there. And then I don't know. There are some things like the whole like extracting acapellas or extracting beats with certain AI tools is really helpful. But yeah, I don't know. How does it? I mean, the technology is at a certain level where for example, I don't send my music to a mixer anymore, and I don't send my music to someone to master it anymore, because you just have so many tools to do it on your own. You don't have to rely solely on your ear anymore. But yeah, there's still, I think there's the process I'm doing is still the same, right? It's still trying to find a cool hook or a cool thingy to start with, and to get something going to build a track around. I mean, obviously you have Splice, which is a really, really big tool for everybody to get like things going and to get like a song started. That's really helpful.
What are your favorite, some of your favorite tools that you're using and that are speeding up your process at the minute?
To speeding up the process.
Yeah, because obviously you mentioned now as you step into like obviously having to produce every single day with different kinds of artists, you're having to work on speeding up that process, trying to like obviously sharpen your sword a little bit in when you're on the computer. So what are your favorite tools or processes that you've had to like sort of develop in the last, let's say, year?
Oh wow. Yeah, I have some. I don't know if I want to share with no. But I have this there's an app from Splice called Kozo, or COSO. And Splice has this feature as well in on their site, where you can kind of drag certain loops in and create like, I call it a song starter, but you can also call it like a beat or whatever, in different genres. So you have like a drum and bass beat, and you can put it in a bass, and you can just instantly click on a kind of like a random input, so it changes the bass, it changes the lead, or it changes the drums. And it's something I do, for example, when my 2-year-old daughter, when she goes to sleep, I always sit next to her with my headphones on and just go through my phone and just make some song starters, just because I have to have loads when the next day an artist comes in, and I just have to have some things to kind of get something going, right? Just a chord progression or a rhythm or something where the artist can go, oh, I like this. I can generate some ideas on this. Obviously, most of the time, nothing of that song start stays in the final, but it's a really cool tool to kind of just create like loads of things, small ideas really quick. That's what I use a lot. And in the studio, well, I make loads of beats just on my just like dragging in samples and it's just my workflow is quick enough. I don't feel I can make it any quicker. I don't use like loads of drum loops from Splice to kind of create a beat. I always do that on my own, but it's quick enough. But like the Cthulhu chord generator, that's what I use a lot as well, because it's a really good tool if you're not like a good pianist to make a good chord progression. And I feel like maybe less in tech house or techno or whatever, but a good chord progression is the base of a song. So you kind of want to have a good progression to start the idea, to build an idea on. Is that you?
I don't know if you can hear that. We've got a fire alarm going off on our side.
Wow.
Sorry about that.
It's the nerd bullshit alarm. too much tech talk.
Bringing that fire, bro. Bringing that fire.
Tell us a little bit about your most recent album, because obviously it's called Mike Mago. Is it mainly sort of stemming back to your roots with that album there?
Yeah, a bit. It was. I actually forgot that whole thing to mention that whole thing in the whole story of. But yeah. But yeah, recently, well, not recently. I think it's released half a year ago, but I've made it. I think a year ago, a bit longer, and that was part of the process of just trying to figure out how I can motivate myself in making music that's closer to my heart. And there are way more influences of like breakbeat and different rhythms. And I think there's no 4 to the floor. Maybe there's one 4 to the floor track on it. And the rest is more influenced by stuff I listen to or that I am influenced by, from the early days. So trying to let go a bit more, like what I thought previously should be Mike Mago. And that's kind of like how I did. So I made loads of stuff. I finished it, I think, a year ago, maybe more, but most of the sessions I did were during the pandemic. Yeah. Which maybe also was kind of like a moment in time where everybody kind of just looked at the cards they had on the table and were like, can I rearrange them or what can I do? So that was for me the same. So yeah, that was basically the process of the Mike Mago album.
Interesting, yeah. Very exciting. Is there anything else that you feel like we've missed that you think is important to your story?
Not that I think of right now. I think I've been babbling on for quite some time.
Oh, you got anything?
No, I think that was it. Yeah, I think pretty much covered everything there.
Yeah, no, that was super interesting. I can't thank you enough for letting us delve into your story a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah,
see the inner workings to Mike Mago.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it was the first time that I told the entire story to anybody. So it was nice to do. And also...
For sure.
It's a privilege. Yeah.
Really nice
Yeah, no,
questions.
can't thank you enough. It was super insightful. I'm sure the audience is going to love it. I'm sure they'll have more questions after this. So do keep an eye out in the comment section down below.
Oh, yeah.
When this is live. If they got anything, then we'll make sure we fire it over to you. But once again, cannot thank you enough for all this. And I look forward to obviously connecting with you in the future. We'll see where this goes, and can't wait to see what you do with all of your producing.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you making the time for this. Yeah, really nice.
It's an honor for us, for sure.
Nice, man.
Any closing remarks for the audience?
Well, I mean, to all the young producers, just remember that it's like chipping away in a gold mine. You have to chip sometimes a long time to find some gold, or diamonds. I don't know what you find in a mine. Anything you want to find.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends where you dig, baby.
Just keep your head up and follow your heart, and try to don't forget to live in the moment as well.
Damn right. You heard it here first.
Great way to leave it there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, thanks again, bud.
Thank you.
That's the pod.
All right.
As you know, the Ibiza openings are fast approaching, and Eden are bringing the goods. So, for your chance to win a pucker up boat party, be out on the sea all day, plus your entry to Eden for afterwards, all you have to do is check out the description down below. I'll see you on the dance floor. And if you love this episode, then I know you'll love the episode with Simon Field right here, as he shares the secrets on achieving 200,000 streams every single day. That's right. I'll see you there.